Hi, it's Shelly here. For this week's project, I'm working on a 16 by 20 inch hardboard canvas. I'm starting out with some collage of using some gel prints, some old letters that I enjoy using so much from my aunts to my mom and dad. And I've got some of the phone book pages that I coffee dyed last week, as well as some newspaper. It's February here in Iowa and still quite cold, and turning my mind towards spring and sunshine and warmth outside and being outside. So I just kind of wanted to do kind of a springy, colorful canvas. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm putting everything down with some matte medium and kind of worried here that maybe some of my aunts, sometimes some of the ink they used back in the day smears. So I'm hoping that is not going to happen here. And it does not. I was very happy with that. After today, I decided, I need to be taking copies of these letters because I'm going to run out of them soon, and I do love them in my background collages. So after this, I will go through and take all the letters that I have left and make copies and have them on my computer so that I can use them at any time. So I just encourage you to do that if you, like me, have old family letters that you want to preserve in your art. I've selected all the papers I want to use in this project, but there's a couple of them that need a little help. So I'm just going to go in, as I often do, with a stencil and my sponge, and I'm just tapping on lightly. I don't want it to be perfect transfer. I just want to add a little bit more of that magenta to this yellow background. I'm using the original stencils on top of these two pieces just to add a little bit of, they have more of a red color on them, and I want it to be that more magenta. So I'm not going crazy with it, just very, very lightly. And then on my next book page there, I'm going to add a little more of a golden, that yellow ochre on there, just to make them look a little bit more like my other yellow sheets. I decided I want to go back in with a little bit of my wedding dress lace that I've been using. I got out some thick matte gel and my shaper there, and I'm going to go through and just quickly, why do I say quickly? Maybe because I'm speeding everything up. Anyways, I'm just going to go in and add that lace to my background, and I really love the effect. You can tell because I've been using it a lot lately if you've been watching any of my videos. And I've decided that I've got to start looking at, when I'm thrifting, I have got to start looking for lace because I am getting low on my wedding dress lace. And I would also like to have some other patterns, and yeah, so keep that in mind when you're out about. I penciled out a petal, and now I'm using that as my guide to cut out all the petals from my papers. It's a lot of P's. Trying to find the best spot on each one of my papers without wasting too much. A couple of these are the plastic back deli paper that I bought accidentally, but I think that they'll be fine on this application. Now it's time to mix up some paints, and I'm wanting to keep my background fairly neutral with a little bit of the green and the blue from my papers. I'm not worried about matching the blues and the greens exactly. I'm just getting it close. I want to make sure that I can see a lot of my background coming through, so I will put some paint and use a little water to move it around, and then my fingers, of course. I enjoy the finger painting. I'll start out with putting a little bit of my blue and green out, and then come back in and try to blend it all together. I'm blending everything with a couple of baby wipes, and I really like the way it's looking so far. Now I'm going in and kind of figuring out where I might want my petals, and then I'll mark my center with this cap off of something. I'm a little nervous at this point because once you start going in with things on top of each other like this, overlapping, that if you don't like where that bottom one is down the road, you're stuck with it. But I'm not going for perfection. I just want a pretty flower that represents spring for me today. And that little bit of nervousness, not knowing how it's going to turn out, is part of the process that I find very exciting. I make a couple of changes here, and that one leaf, I liked the book paper, but I like this paper better, and I rather have the three. Each leaf has some different colors in it, and I like that a little better. I also, this one paper was a little bit more red than I wanted, so I wind up leaving that out. Okay, now it's time to start applying my petals, and I'm just using my regular matte medium to do that. I decide that I better put my leaves down first because I want them just kind of poking out or on the sides. And those are really what I really wanted to move at the end more than anything else. I'm really working it into that first one. I had to really work into the lace there on the right side. These are all deli papers, so they're nice and thin, and I'm able to really kind of be a little bit rough with them. They're even stronger with the paint on them, so they're really hard to tear. So I love that, but I also love that they're thin enough to be able to work down into whatever texture you've got going on in the background. Once I get all my petals on, I'll go back over my entire canvas with a coat of matte medium, and then I will come in with a couple of baby wipes and wad them up and tap all over very gently, just gently kissing the canvas to make sure that my matte medium is all even and my texture is all the same. I pull out some circle stencils that I've made over the years and just finally decide on which one I'm going to use. And I'm just going to use some texture paste and put a nice thick coat for my center of the flower. I really want it raised off the main surface, and so I'm adding more and more texture paste till I get it up high. This will take a long time to dry, but that's okay, I'm not in a rush. I pulled out the papers that I used for my leaves and went through and just rough cutted some stems, and then decided on the one there in the center and applied that with some matte medium. Now it's the next day. Everything is dry-ish. My modeling paste is dry enough to play with it, work with it, but it is not, I mean, I could still really do some damage here if I was too rough with it, because it will continue to dry over the next several days. But I pick off some of the big parts, the big pieces with my fingernails, and then I'll go in with a sanding block and lightly do little circles and get some of it out. Not trying to make it perfectly smooth here. I want it to be raised and uneven. Just taking off some of the big, or anything that's flaky. I want my center to be much like my other yellow papers. So I'm going all over with my yellow ochre and just going to put a nice base coat on, making sure I get into all the little cracks and crevices, and there are many. And then I will come back in with the bright yellow and then put that on here and there, so I've got a nice mix of the two. I like how it's looking, but I feel like there's an area right there to the right that just needs another petal right there. So I grab another paper that I think is going to work, cut it out, and then try to make my center area curved so I can just apply it and not have to do anything else to it. And thankfully it worked. And while I was there, I put a nice little coat of matte medium all over my center. And then, of course, I've got to come in with my baby wipes. As I looked at my flower, I thought about defining my edges more with paint or a marker or something. I thought about possibly adding some more texture to my background with some texture paste and a stencil, but I just love it how it is and thought, you know, I think I need to leave it like it is. It's simple, but I love it. I love the texture of the wedding dress. I love the texture of the center. Yeah, I'm pleased with it. Anyways, I hope you liked it as well, and I hope you'll join me in my next video. Bye for now.